Thank you very much for coming. A little history, so I put on my very professorial glasses here. I may
Yay!
not even need these because this text is really big. So, Gothic Rainbow is the original title of. I keep leaning in like this as though I don't have room. Okay. So, Gothic Rainbow was the original title of Zero, which was my first novel published with Random House Children's Books back in 2013 when it became an ALA YALSA Best Book of 2013, which is pretty cool. One of the higher
Really?
honors I have achieved. Also, probably one of the most beloved books, and by most beloved,
Mm,
like the number of people who've read it isn't that big, but the people who have and the people who love it. Like they are hardcore Zero fans, which I really appreciate. And I've got several actually books and photos and things like that of readers that I've accumulated over the years. People who've drawn in the book. People who've
mm.
Mariah, my good friend and fan Mariah, who literally read her copy to pieces, which she showed me. It was just it's and that's what you want to see, man. That was really cool. So, and often Zero, when people ask what my favorite novel is of mine, Zero frequently ranks at the top. She's usually number one, maybe
Yeah.
number two, depending on my mood. But we spent about 19 years together before she was published.
Mm.
The first draft was written in 1993. 1993 is my first year of college. Not my last, it turns out, but definitely my first. And so, one of the things that I think is interesting to me about that is when people ask about why did I start writing YA. Well, YA had just barely become a thing when Party was published. It was like Laurie Haltz Anderson, in my opinion, had kind of just kicked that door open for realistic YA. As
Yeah.
opposed to children's and adult YA kind of made its way in there thanks in large part to her and other authors like that. So I didn't know. I was 19, I think, maybe 18 when I started this draft. So it was like, well, it wasn't YA, it was a book. Like it was a story. It was just me writing about things and feelings and events and things that I was actually going through or that my friends were going through. So I didn't consider it YA until, however many 19 years later. And here we go with the first draft of the first page of Gothic Rainbow. The sky had grumbled all day long, threatening to storm with a baritone voice. Here's the problem. The problem is because I'm reading it out loud, I don't want to read it. I want to give it as on
Yeah.
like
Is
sincere.
it better for me to read
No,
it?
no, no. I got it. I
Okay.
got it.
Are
I can
you
get. It's
sure?
just, but I want
Are
to
you
be all. I
sure?
feel like I should be all dramatic
No, no,
because
no,
it's
no, no,
so. I
no,
don't
no,
want
no.
to
Just
spoil.
just
I
read
want
it.
to try to read it
Just
as
read it.
authentically as I can.
Yes.
Okay. One more
Yes.
time from the
Yes,
top.
yes.
The sky had grumbled all day long, threatening to storm with a baritone voice. Now, hours having passed since twilight was chased away by the night, the threat became action. Drops fell across the valley, and the clouds overhead cast a dim orange glow as they reflected the lights that emanated from the city below. The rain always made her feel a bit different, a bit excited. The scent of a storm brewing over the desert gave her a pleasant chill, one that she anticipated with the onset of every monsoon season. Amanda Catherine Walsh sat in her driveway, eyes closed, inhaling deeply the scent of the desert rain. She let its taste swim across her tongue, the taste of the sand, the taste of 1,000 campfire meals cooked on the prairie. A long Cheshire cat-like smile stretched across her lips. Her head fell back on her shoulders. The world, her world, was at peace. Rain was an unusual occurrence here in the desert city where she lived, but always a welcome one. She imagined herself to be in a green place, perhaps some remote shire in Europe, frolicking among the hillocks and knolls, free from fear and pain. "Amy, you'll catch your death out there! Get inside this house!" And her world collapsed with a shatter. Her smile was melted away by the falling tears of the darkened sky. Her eyes opened, and grim was the realization of here and now. "Amy, do you hear me?" "My name is Zero," she said under her breath. "Don't you talk back to me!" her mother screeched, her harpy-like voice echoing around the neighborhood. Zero doubted that she had actually heard the words, but that was her mother, assuming that any words spoken in low tones were sarcastic assassinations on her character. Frustrated, Zero picked herself up and stomped angrily into the house. "It's not cold out," she said bitterly. "It's barely even sprinkling." And the Lord, being the humorous being that he is, sent a cadence of thunderbursts across the night, dashing the girl's defense.
I'm sorry. I really was.
Distraught at his timing, Zero continued on to her room. "What kind of girl sits in a rainstorm without a coat on?" her mother demanded. "A wet one, I imagine," Zero said brightly. Mrs. Walsh attempted to smack the back of her daughter's head, but she could only swipe a few blonde hairs. Zero did not break stride. The end. So, that's not as bad as I remember. I think it got worse before it got better.
As always, as ever. I like to start with the positive thing. You know, you want to sandwich
Just
your
the same, right?
criticism, right?
Criticism sandwich.
So, I'm so sorry.
I'm not. Sold the book, so like.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So this, painting this scene and it's raining, and then her mom calls to her. And I think one of the sentences, not that the sentence should stay, but the
Mm-hmm.
sentence that follows, and her world collapsed with a shatter.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, it was one of those sentences that I went, ah, there's Zero. Like the dynamic
Mm.
between Zero and her mom
Mm-hmm.
was very consistent. And then I felt actually the same thing with what kind of girl sits in a rainstorm without a coat on and a wet one, I imagine.
Oh, that's
Like,
her. Yeah.
right? Like I was
For
like,
sure.
oh, there she is.
I would say if I was an agent and this landed on my desk, um, I don't know how far I'd get, um, cause it's awfully full of itself. And I hear this, and honestly, I'll put this question, you guys, and feel free to answer if you'd like to. I always, not always, the last several years, I've started to wonder if I'm actually a lot more literary than I ever thought. Because even if you look at Party or something like that, like, yes, dialogue is my thing, and I rely heavily on dialogue, obviously. But if you give me some space, or if I give myself some space, and kind of wallow around a little bit in narrative, I feel like my tone is a lot more literary than I ever thought. Like, I feel
Hmm.
like I have struggled writing the pulp fiction-y type of stuff I want to write because it tends to have this tone that's like, okay, you can pull back a little bit there, Hemingway. All right, you know what I'm saying? And so this feels a little overwrought to me, not necessarily in a bad way, but it's
It,
a little
it's
much.
yeah, yeah. I mean, so you were 19
I was
when you
19
wrote
and,
it,
and very like
right?
19,
So I
barefoot
right,
at school, barefoot at college, and
because
like it
but he
was
was
the
never a
90s.
hippie. It's so weird.
No, but there was a year. Joel and I had a whole costume contest going on at SCC, like who could come up with the weirdest
Right.
thing. Because it was, like it was Nirvana was ascendant and Bill Clinton was in the like everything was great. We
Yeah,
had nothing to worry
you
about.
could walk around barefoot
We
and have it.
could,
Yeah.
we could. Gen X was the shit.
Well, Danny's gonna agree with that it being kind of literary, and actually, I do too.
It's
I
interesting.
that it does have kind of that feel and
Hmm.
texture.
Hmm.
Not only this version, but at the end.
Oh, I'm glad I was able to keep this in the JPEG. I think that's on the website is that she tried to hit the back of her head, like I remember in thinking it and writing it. I can go back to those moments of
Yeah.
writing the draft and thinking it's kind of a hey,
Right.
Johnny Schumacher. I don't know why it's called that, but just a quick thing like this. But in the text, that could be like a like she
Right.
could really be swinging,
Right.
and that's not what it should be.
No.
So. If I were an agent or an editor, that would be one of the things I'd want to clarify with the author. Be like, now, did you mean for her to like take a swing at her kid? Because that's serious shit. Like we got to
Mm-hmm.
maybe back that up.
Right.
And the author would be like, no, 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 that's not what I meant. Which is like, fine, let's correct that. I do appreciate, yeah, the shift with this literary this landscape, and I think it's intentional. I can tell you as the author, it was intentional. But speaking as an agent or an editor, I would assume that some of the like frolicking among the hillocks and knolls, what the hell? Like that's one of those moments where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, you either know what you're doing, and that's like sarcasm, and the narrator is being overwrought, or you have no idea how overwrought you are, and I can't quite tell the difference. Um, so it's a little muddled in that sense. Like if you're going to be literary, then be literary and appeal to those readers and to those companies. If you're
Right.
not, then don't. And so, I mean, not bad for 19, but still, it's a little muddled on that point, I think. Um, there is conflict right away, which is nice.
Yes.
It doesn't. Now, lately, I've been advising all of my writers to definitely we need to have that central conflict or a sense of the central conflict by the end of the first chapter for sure. If you can squeeze it into the first page realistically and comfortably, great, do it. This doesn't do that, but it does set up, as Mary actually kind of pointed out, the thing about her. This is what I love
Mm-hmm.
about Phoenix, and then this is why I don't want to be here anymore.
Right.
And the conflict with her mom, which is a sort of secondary to the plot, but very crucial to the plot. So I appreciate that.
Good job.
Yeah.
Good job. Mary does think it's very dense for an opening.
Yes. And okay, and then
So
there was,
yeah.
and then we both laughed at the Lord. Like that's not one of those things where I know what I meant, but as an outside reader, like, so this is a Christian novel?
I did not have a
which is
question about whether or
fine,
not it was a Christian novel or
but I would
not.
have to ask. Like that's one of the things. Like you very deliberately went out and called on the Lord. It's like, and again, as the author, I know what I meant. As a reader, like that, where are we going? Hold on, now my guard's up. Like, did you submit this to the right place? I'm not sure.
That's funny because I
You didn't
just
at
like,
all, really.
I mean, I bumped on the Lord, but not because I was wondering, is this a book in some religious genre?
Okay.
I
I may not be giving readers enough credit when I say that. Then that's entirely possible. That's the whole point.
thank heavens.
There's nothing wrong with this as a first draft, by the way. I would like to point that out to all of my writers who are tuning
Oh,
in
yeah.
tonight. There's nothing wrong with this as a first draft. Why? Because you got it out. That's the main thing. Get the draft out, which is the
Right.
thing I'm struggling with most right now, is getting the first draft out. So that part is fantastic. Let's do the poem next.
All
So
right.
this we're gonna, and it's kind of like we're breaking with tradition, except we don't
She's
have
our-
one.
Right.
So this author has sent us some poetry. I have not even had a chance to read this yet. So I'm going.
She's owned it.
Oh, she has owned it?
Yep, in the comments. So this is a
Oh, okay.
poem by Mary.
Okay, it's a poem by Mary. Yay! So Mary sent us this poem. I have not read it yet, so I will be hearing it for the first time along with all of you. And again, just for reference, specifically Mary, but everybody else, poetry is not my thing. I've studied this much of it, and I need to study a lot more. If you are one of my writers tuning in tonight, you must study poetry, because that is where, as we talk about alliteration, all that kind of stuff, some of the best narrative prose I have read has come from poets, because poets have a way of putting words together that just us plain old prose guys don't. Like, I'll put my dialogue up against a poet any old day of the week. That's, not a problem. But when it comes to that narrative stuff, man, poets can knock it out of the park. So we really should study it more. I'm not trained in this at all. I have no, professional experience in it. So all I'm going to be able to say is like, hey, I liked it, or I don't know, I didn't really like it, or ooh, here's, so we'll just see what happens. I don't know.
All right.
All right, here we go.
Here we go.
And I'm going to be not looking because I have to listen very closely. So here we go.
This will be fun. Right now, I'm happy. It's a big middle finger to the rest of the world. The world of hate, of rage, of heartless indifference, where all of hopes have been played, all of our thoughts displayed on the screens of our friends. Friends we don't know, but we see their perfect lives, believe their perfect lies. We know and don't believe. It's a sham. I hate myself. My life is pure hell. Fat, ugly, stupid, afraid, alone. Poor. They made us think this way on the backs of our own dollars. Miserable people pay to take that pain away. So right now, I'm happy, despite all my pain. Fuck you, I'm happy. I don't care what you think. All the shoulds and the shouldn'ts that scheme to take away the can'ts and the won'ts, I don't care. Right now, I'm happy.
What's up?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay. Here's what I like about that. I like the brutality of it. I love the string of negatives, because that came off. That sounded like a punching bag to me. It was like pow, 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 and I like that a lot. I like that it is not pretentious. It does this sounds like something, because I have written some poetry, never tried to publish or anything, but it was just as part of my self training, and that sounds like something I would write. It was more about the flow of getting the feelings out, and like these were the words that just kind of came out on all at once.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that about it. Yeah. So my first word is gonna be brutality.
I like the shorter lines, the that very much what you said about like getting the emotion out and on the paper. Yeah, for sure.
I'm curious, Mary, if that is how many drafts it took to get to this one. If this is published, how many drafts did it take? Because that was one of the issues I always had with poetry, and I bumped heads with some professors about this, or instructors about this. Like, to me, poetry is like, blah! And you just get it out, and however it comes out, you then go through and do like a spell check and you're done. Versus actual poets who are like, no, no, that's not how that works. Like, you wouldn't do that with a book, would you? And I'm like, well, I kind of would. But they were very particular. Like, no, you don't just like puke it out and then publish it. That's generally speaking not.
Right.
It's something you sit down with and you work and you massage and you do just as many drafts of a poem as you would a novel. So
Yes.
I'm curious how much, if that is published, how many drafts do you think it went through?
Okay, so she
So,
does say it is published. Oh, she
okay,
put the link up. Good
good.
job, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
She did publish the book of poetry. It's named Right Now I'm Happy, and this is
Ah.
literally the first page.
Okay, I
So
thought that was what it was, but I
that's
wasn't sure.
awesome.
Okay.
But I would love to know is how many drafts you
Yeah.
think you got through to get to where the
Mm-hmm.
version that you sent to us, because that's yeah. To me, it feels like there's while the emotion is that raw, get it out
Mm-hmm.
thing, um, the there is construction.
A prose piece, and I have actually not had a chance to read it yet. So this will be an absolutely stone cold reading. I think I know what it's called, and I kind of think I know what it might be about. But yes, okay. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see what happens. And here we go. I don't know if our author is with us or not, but I will do my absolute best. Cold reading. Here we go. Chapter 1, page 1. Tucked in a valuable private alcove of the crowded hallway, I swipe my hand in a circle along the beige painted bricks and watch the image spawn in the wake of my hand. In a flash, I'm looking at my tiny blonde sister, eating a bowl of oatmeal with one hand while she thumbs something on her phone screen with the other. The blue bowl and the wooden table are both instantly familiar to me, but only by sight. I haven't spent enough time there to imagine the feel of the table. My nostalgia is tainted by my years spent here at the academy. As I watch, Mom rushes into the room, dressed for work, in heels and a skirt. Her hands are working at her right ear, fastening an earring. She leans down, kissing Emily on the forehead and swiping the phone from her hands in one practiced motion. Finish up, we have 10 minutes. That's my cue. I swipe the image off the wall and unlock my cell phone. I click on the favorite button with a picture of her dirty blonde hair swept up in a bun, and the call starts. It rings only twice before Mom answers, breathless. Angela, honey, how are you? I'm great, Mom. I don't have a lot of time before class, but I wanted to say good morning. We are just having breakfast, getting ready to head out. How's school? I look around the hallway, watch kids rush to where they're going. The third period will start any second now. I don't really have time to chat. Of course, that's why I call right now. With the time difference, Mom is getting ready to head out when I'm getting into third period. We're both busy. We're both busy right now, which means not a lot of time for questions. You see, most of what my mom knows about the school I'm standing in is a total lie. I hate lying to her. Same as always, nothing to worry about, I answer. Grades are good? That's it. That's the end of the first page.
Whether it's the central conflict or not, I know there's a conflict. And actually, there's a couple of conflicts about like
Mm-hmm.
being able to, have a fast interaction and what's happening. She can see with her mom and sister at home. But really, this whole, as soon as she said that what she knows about the school is completely wrong, oh, well, tell me more. So, yeah. And
Yeah.
that's an immediate pull.
I like that well, I'm going to like her. I'm going to like the narrator, Angela, I believe, because, yes, the lie. We know that she's lying to Mom in some way,
Mm-hmm.
shape, or form, and that she hates lying to Mom. That you didn't have to add that, but you did.
Mm.
The author did, which then endears me to her. Now I'm reading another manuscript, for example. I won't name who it is or anything like that, but I'm reading one manuscript where I really want to like the main character because the main character is a sassy teenage punk rock type of girl. So I'm like, ooh, yay, my favorite. But she hasn't yet said or done anything to endear me to her. She's just kind of a brat. I'm like, you've got
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
to. I need to. And there's hints of it. I know she's in there,
Right.
but I need a sentence or two that will make me go, oh, okay, that's why you're behaving the way you are and why
Yeah.
you're talking the way you are. And you accomplish that in one line. I hate lying to her. Cool, we're on your team. That's all we
Mm-hmm.
needed. There must be some reason we're on board. The
Yes.
fact that you hate it is good.
Mm-hmm.
We were just talking about alliteration a couple minutes ago. I think I counted 3 or 4 uses of the word swipe.
Ooh.
Swipe my hand.
Yes.
Or those thumbs, not swipe. And then there
Function of the
was
times we live in.
right. Well, and that's the thing. Swiping the phone from her hands, I swiped the image off the wall. So there's 3 right in the first 2 paragraphs. So that's a lot of swiping. On the one hand, that's at least 1, if not 2, too many. On the other hand, it is a product of the times we're in,
Right.
and I can visualize it, so that's good. Um, but I think maybe that was one of the places where it would be easy to get hung up on. Was that a technological thing or was that a magic thing? I see. I thought magic. I went immediately to magic,
Yeah.
but with the way swipe is used, it's like, well, it
Yeah.
could be. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a screen. It's a whatever. It's on the wall. That's
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Now we've gummed up the works a little bit
Mm-hmm.
on that. So be careful with that. And I agree with you. I think we're setting up some kind. I mean, the fact that there are lies involved,
Right.
something's going wrong, or
Yeah.
there's a conflict of some kind. So that's good. Way
Right.
to jump into that immediately. Um, and yeah, so I would ask for, were I an editor, I would ask for a little more clarity. And here's the thing, I don't want a lot. I always try to explain that a little bit more to authors that I'm working with. When I ask for more, I don't mean paragraphs. We're talking like a line or two is all we're going to need to give a little bit more
Mm.
clarity,
Uh-huh.
ground things a little bit where we are. Um, Crowded hallway, cool. Swipe my hand in a circle along the beige painted bricks and watch the image spawn in the wake of my hand. See, I think that's magic. But it doesn't have to be.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So on the use of swipe, and I appreciate what you said, Mary, if you're going to use swipe or any word several times, it needs to be obviously deliberate and not make us wonder if it was a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In revision. In revision.
Right. 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 Right.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, and then Richard had an interesting point. His question is, are the details important? Blue bowl, wood tabletop, right ear.
Ooh.
He said the lie is a good hook in terms of what's going on, but at this point, is are the details important?
That's a really good question.
Right?
That is a very good
Go,
question, Richard.
Richard.
Um, Without having the benefit of seeing what it looks like on the page, it is slightly more on the denser side. There's not many paragraphs in here. Not that that's wrong. It's a style. And so the details, I don't know. I don't know if I have an answer to that. I feel like
Yeah.
my impulse is more lately is to more details, provided they are specific and concrete. Like, but then you don't want to get to, you don't want to thesauricize, which is a word I used to do. I actually would write it in the margins when I was working on books. Like, ooh, I would circle like black and say thesauricize. Like, don't call it black, call it ebony. Or don't call it red. It's gotta be crimson. Like, no, sometimes it's red.
That's
Sometimes it's
hilarious
black.
given
Sometimes
what you
it's
do
blue.
now.
Right?
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, yeah.
So like me, younger me, 19-year-old me would have said blue bowl. No, no, cobalt. Because that's what a real writer would say.
Oh
No, a
my
real writer would
gosh.
say, "What color is it? Blue." All right, then it's blue. So the details. I'm tap dancing and farting here. Um, something my dad used to say.
I know.
Sorry.
It's
He
okay.
used to say a lot of things.
Most of which we will not repeat.
So to Richard's question, I'm sorry, or a comment about the details. I think yes, the details are important if they're going to reveal something.
Right.
So does the blue bowl and the wood table necessarily reveal something? No. If it was a wood table with remnant scratches from the most recent hobgoblin attack, okay, that's a detail maybe you could put in there.
Yes.
Because that will tell us something.
Right.
Which kind of brought me back to the beige walls. Like, I think the beige walls is a gamble because as soon as I see the word beige, it's like, okay, I'm already asleep. Like, oh God, here we go. I don't know if I want to open a story.
As we sit in your beige room.
Right, no, exactly, right? Because you're like, oh God, it's just beige. And living in Arizona, like, everything is beige.
Do we need to paint your office?
Yeah, we
Okay.
do. I have plans. Uh, so I worry about that versus,
Sure.
is there anything else it could be
Mm-hmm.
that would give us more
Yeah.
texture? Like, if it is, let's say it's technological, well then, could it be stainless steel or could it be some other type of,
Oh
is
yes,
it a view
that
screen?
that is uh antiseptic.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Good word, something
Yeah.
like that. Or if it's more of a Hogwarts kind of thing, is it flagstone or the
Right,
chipped,
right.
I don't
With
know.
a tapestry or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So tell me
Mhm.
just a little bit. Mm-hmm.
So Richard, to your comment, I think those are the important details. Is
Right.
it important that the bowl is blue or the table is wooden. At this point, no, unless it comes up
Right.
later. Uh, might it be important to take us a step beyond beige walls? I would say yes. I think give us a
Hmm.
little bit something more, or a smell, like an antiseptic smell, is one
Yes.
thing versus wood fire, wood burning fireplace. That's a completely different
Hmm.
thing and gives us, sends us to a different
Yes.
place.
Yes.
And maybe even, and I don't know where or how, if this is, well, regardless of whether it was magic or technological, I would want to see, and again, we're talking a sentence, maybe two,
Yeah.
one more drop of the setting of this is
Hmm.
magic and here's how you know.
Right.
Because, oh, the popular girls are gliding to class instead of walking like the rest of us, or I don't know, or somebody's got their pet, dragon on their shoulder. Just some little kiss, just a little
Right.
this is magic,
Right.
or
Right.
someone's on their hoverboard. Oh, okay. Just a little bit so we
Right.
know exactly what we're
Yes.
getting into in the first page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The
It.
go.
No. No.
No. Okay. The okay. I will then. I will. I do want to add though. One of the reasons I think we're saying all of this is
Hmm.
because it's good.
Because we want to know
Because we
more.
want to know more, and because you
Yes.
have something to work with.
Absolutely.
Which is something I run into on my
Hmm.
Fiverr page on from time to time. Is okay, double space, and like spell check, things like that versus, oh no, like just by reading this and seeing it on the page, it's like, oh, this is a writer. Like this is
Right.
somebody who's been doing this and has
Right.
either done a great job of self-teaching or has been trained in some way, shape, or form. You
Hmm.
clearly know what you're doing. If you
Right.
didn't, we couldn't be having this conversation, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, just wanted to
There's
point
no
that out.
reason to ask more or desire more or to clarify stuff if you don't care
Yeah.
about the story or the characters.
Hmm.
And
Or if the
in
writing just isn't there.
right where you're just like, "Bleh."
Yeah.
But in this first page, there is something interesting. There is something
Hmm.
intriguing. You have shown a conflict right from the beginning.
Hmm.
So yeah. Um, no, so you were just saying about the like a sentence or two somewhere in there with a little bit more detail or whatever.
Hmm.
So since we're on this whole, is it technological or Hogwarts? Um, Recently watched, introduced Toby to one of the Harry Potters over Christmas because right there's like it's had like Harry Potter for like 24 or 48 hours. It's crazy. So he watched one, and one of the things that struck me that I don't remember noticing before, but when I was watching with him this last time, is that at Hogwarts, as far as I could tell, there are no electric lights.
I don't think so.
Like there's candles and there's fire, and there may have been
Like magic or something, but
no, I mean, but it's not. It is. It's very clearly present day.
hmm.
So it's not that in the world electricity doesn't exist. But at Hogwarts,
Hmm.
everything is done, and so there's a texture to it. So you do have
Mm.
things like tapestries and paintings, and in that place and in that setting, it's candles and fireplaces that give light, or lanterns. And it was just like it wasn't an assault, you know, um, but it was just enough that I was like, oh, like that's an interesting texture
Yeah.
to add to that tells me we're in a different place even though we're in present day
Hmm.
essentially. And I think that's one of the things, it's that I think we're talking about is it a technological thing and school, so give me a little bit more antiseptic or hoverboard or like just one or two other things, or if it is
Hmm.
magic, which I kind of have a feeling at this point
I
that
think
it
it's, yeah,
is,
probably.
then give me one or two other things that. So anyway,
Yeah.
Hogwarts and the fact that there's no electricity.
I do think it brings up the question of genre, actually, because I'm gonna jump. It's the title we were given is The Academy. So, based
Mm.
on what I know of the markets, I'm going to assume this is going to be a Magic Academy story with a teenage girl. That's a very kind of not it's a kind of its own genre unto itself at this
Sure.
point, which is fine. the two things about that I want all of my writers to be thinking about, myself included, is on the one hand, right to market. There's a market for this. That's why people
Mm-hmm.
are writing it. So, and if you're a fan of it and you want to write
Right.
your own, then by all means do that, and go for it. Like there's no reason not to do that. On the other hand, uh-oh, everybody's writing it, so how is mine going to be different? What's the thing I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to come at, or how am I going to come at it differently? On yet the third hand, you have to be careful because readers of genres have genre expectations and they want certain things. I think this is an issue that I've run into with some of the genre work I've been trying to work on is, well, I want to write this story and it's fantasy and this is what happens in my fantasy world. But are my fantasy readers going to be like, oh, yes, that's fantasy and we accept you? Or are they going to be like, nope, that's not how it works. Sorry, you're out. Like, how much wiggle
Mm,
room do you
yep.
have once you're going into a genre? And that's a dicey thing. I don't have an answer for it.
Right.
I'm still working on it. Like, I can say with confidence that if we're talking about contemporary realistic YA, the main thing there is voice. You've got to have an authentic
Mm.
voice, and if you sound even remotely like an adult, you're done. Even though adults are the ones who are reading it, or at least were reading it at one point. Um, so writing for a genre, it's tricky because there's so many. For me, there's so many stories I want to tell, and like this one is science fiction, and this one is sword and sorcery fantasy. But have I read enough in those genres to know what readers in those genres are going to expect, and then will they embrace me? Will they accept me, or will I be breaking down genre conventions? Like, I don't know. I have no idea. So it's just something to be thinking about. Not as you write the book,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
in revision maybe, or even after revision, be thinking about, well,
Right.
who, because if you're going to be submitting it to an agent, you're going to have to give them one genre and then maybe a subgenre. You have to be thinking in terms of
Mm-hmm.
where does this
Mm-hmm.
go in Barnes and Noble,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So be thinking about all of those things.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's an old saw in Hollywood. It's like, I want that, but different.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, what is that? Like, well, I'll know it when I see it. And like, that's all they give you. So you just gotta go with your gut at that point. As long as you love it, that's the important thing.
Yes. Richard says this is a great case where proper cover art could be used as context.
I was thinking the same
And
thing.
absolutely, absolutely tells you
Yes.
right away: is this
Uh-huh.
fantasy? Is it
Yeah.
sci-fi? Is
Hmm.
it? Yep, absolutely,
And we've run into issues. I don't
absolutely.
know if Joe, my friend Joe Nassis, talked about this when he was on the show a year or so ago, where he had a cover and it was World War One.
Okay.
I think it was a World War One zombie book that's still available. I can't remember what it was called now, um, but a lot of fun. And he gets the cover back, and it was showing a submarine on the Thames with Big Ben in the background, and the submarine was flying a swastika. And he was like, "Okay, first of all, like let me unpack this for you." Like the
There's
number of ways this is wrong,
yeah,
and the publisher was
yeah.
like, "Mm-hmm, okay, this is what we'll sell." And he's like, "But it's like straight up false. Like it's so wrong
Wow.
on so many." And they're like, "Yes, but it will sell." Like Jesus. So
So I mean, like
brace
the
yourself,
the submarine on the Thames is like,
right?
but the story about that's set in World War I and there's a swastika flag, like I would get mad.
Right.
That would be, as somebody who has read a lot of fiction
Mm-hmm.
in both of those time
And presumably,
frames,
so of those people, so of those
right?
readers,
Like
yeah.
I would be so
And
angry.
who are you going to be pissed at? Joe,
Right.
because no
Well, I
one's going
mean,
to go, "Who published this?" Daw. Like
well,
that's not what happened. You might
I
because
would
you know
now.
that, but most readers, they don't, it's the author's fault. Why?
Right.
And that's the question. You go, "Why did you change the cover, Joe?" Like, because I can't. Because the
It's
publisher
not
did it.
my right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So you're absolutely right, Richard. Cover would be great context. However, that
Yeah.
brings us back to our point from last week: is that we have to look at this, and this is also without the benefit of a synopsis or a query letter, too.
Oh,
We have
yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah.
So an agent is going to read, or even a reader, a potential reader is going to read, flap copy, jacket copy, or about the book. They're going to read some kind of synopsis before they start flipping through it. Generally speaking, so we're
Yeah.
going into it even more cold than an agent or an editor would.
Yeah.
So we have to take that into account.
Yeah, for sure.
We would know more about it if we were reading a synopsis of the query letter, certainly. However, having said that, I still think it is. I would argue that it still behooves us as writers to nail that opening, and that's why that first page
Yeah.
is so important.
Yeah.
And get us that rooting, like we talked about last week with the dwarf knocking somebody out and all this, like in the mentioned hobgoblins and manticores. Like, oh, fantasy, got it. Move, let's go. I'm in or I'm out. And also, it's okay to be out. We want people to kind of drop out, believe it or not. You cannot
Yeah.
make everybody happy, so don't try. Make those core readers happy. The people who want to read fantasy will read fantasy, so write fantasy. The people who are going to read Magic Academy want to read Magic Academy, so write that for them and don't worry about the
Yes.
people who aren't.
Right.
Totally fine.
Yeah.
You'll sell a lot more books.
Yeah, for sure.
The things I'm going to be talking about is the first line of Party, which of course is I'm the girl nobody knows until she commits suicide. Then suddenly everyone had a class with her.
Yep.
You know the one I mean. Okay, that doesn't establish Jack. I don't know that we're in Santa Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what year it is. I don't know anything about this person. I know it's a girl.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a vague looming threat that maybe she's going to hurt herself potentially. That's it. Now, even in the following paragraphs, we still don't know exactly where we are because she's still talking about herself.
Right.
However, there's Darrow the Warrior and the goblins and the dwarves and whatever, and we can say, okay, fantasy. Then there's Party, which has a line like that. There could be magic involved. There could be science and technology. There could be dinosaurs. I don't know. But probably there isn't because the tone has established a lot of what we're getting into. And if any of you have ever seen Joy at work at Comic-Con or Fan Fusion, one of the things we like to do is put that book into someone's hand and say, read the first page. And if you turn the page, you have to buy it. And I remember, at least I think it was a couple years ago, somebody took the challenge, like, okay, and they got there and they had that corner of the book and they're just reading, and then they go, God damn it! Like, that's right. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So, despite the fact that we're not announcing a physical location, you can establish where we are or what you're getting into by tone of voice, or tone and or voice with that capital V. That's entirely possible as well. I think that's probably in literary fiction, a lot of things like that. Like, what am I getting into?
Right.
That first. Jane Austen. What's the In Want of a Husband? It is well
Oh,
known.
no! It's commonly known that a wealthy man it's the first line
right.
of Pride and Prejudice about Mr. Bingley.
Right.
A single man with something about not having a house is
and wealth or something.
Yeah,
must be in want of a wife.
Of a wife. Mm-hmm.
Bam.
Yeah.
That is a hell of an opening line.
There
and
it
established.
is.
We don't know the details yet.
No, but we know everything we need to
we
know
know everything
about
we
this
need to know.
story. Uh-huh.
So just do that, obviously.
Right.
Write
Just
Jane
do.
Austen, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Easy day.
So you saw two writers, two
Yes,
authors
thank you,
submit
writers.
their work. Way to go,
Nice.
both Mary and
You know how much
Tabitha.
guts that took, right?
Like amazingly
That's not easy.
huge,
Well
crazy guts and like
Mhm.
stones. It's right there.
Yeah.
So if you have something that you want to share, you want some ideas, you want some critique on,
If you know somebody else.
Yep. Share them with Tom so that we can enjoy it next week or in following weeks.
Yes.
All that
and
kind of good stuff.
If you or someone you know is in the market to do that on a more private basis and a more
Absolutely.
deep dive, then hit me up on
Yes.
Fiverr, which should be fiverr.com. That's 2 R's.
Yay.
Fiverr.com/Tom Leveen. I have 100 ratings, and I think like 95 of them are 5-star, and the rest are 4-star. Like, I am really doing quite well, at least in terms of the what people are getting for the money over there. So definitely look at Fiverr.com. Also, you or others is fine.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for coming. It really means the world to me to have you showing up like this, especially on a Friday night. I know
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
It's a weird night to do this, but I appreciate it very, very much. So, yeah. Good?
Yeah, good.
All right. May you be happy, may you be well, may you be safe, and may you be peaceful and at ease. And we'll see you guys next week. Be safe out there.
Good night.
Good night.